Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is Greenleaf Season 2, Episode 14, and the name of this episode is The Father's Will. Man, this was an awesome episode, y'all. Woo, so much went down. But before I get started, let me offer my love and condolences to everybody that was affected by Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma, and that if you can give relief or, give support any way you can, please do so. They really need our help. And also, I want to give some shout-outs, before I start this review. Let me give a shout-out to my boy Mike B. I apologize, I forgot to shout him out last night because he reviews the Haves and the Have-Nots, and he also reviews Queen Sugar and a few other shows, and he's a very good reviewer, so definitely check out Mike B. Also, check out Lady Nika. I'm a big fan of hers, and she's a great individual, and I definitely love her reviews as well. She definitely reviews Greenleaf as well as many other shows, so definitely check out Lady Nika. And my girl, Kyla from Rambling Reviews. Her and her mother do awesome reviews of Greenleaf, and they are amazing. They are great singers, and they have great chemistry with each other, and I love watching their reviews. And she also reviews the Have and the Have-Nots and many other shows as well, so definitely check out my girl Kyla from Rambling Reviews. But I actually gotta put a joke out about her because she is so hilarious. She has a nickname for Jabari. She calls him Gaytoven, and it just tickled me when she said that in the last review. So definitely shout out to my girl Kyla. She does great reviews of Greenleaf. But let's get started with this. Man, it opened up with a bang. Lionel, as we saw from the last episode, called Bishop Greenleaf and said that he needed to meet with him in person, and it wasn't good news. So immediately, Lady May is shooken up because she's thinking he's going to tell the tea about their secret affair they had years ago. Well, Lionel finally shows up, and Bishop Greenleaf is like, say it, what's going on? And he's kind of hesitant at first, but then he says it. Aaron is gay. And she was like, wow, we didn't know at all. How did you know? Well, he said that, there was a council position that he was being offered, and he was so happy that he wanted to give him the word, so he went to his home in Montgomery, Alabama. They thought he lived in the same town with his father, but he doesn't. He lives in Montgomery, and he said that he went there to he pretty much just took a job there at the Poverty Law Center, and he went to his house to actually give him the good news about him being given this opportunity, for councilman, but he was, but he said that something was odd, and it was just kind of off-putting, but, I began to investigate, and then it turns out he had a visitor, and it was Kevin. So I'm like, So they're like, oh, you mean to tell me that Kevin has been with Aaron this whole time? He's like, no, he just happened to be there at that moment, but he was just there visiting, but Kevin's been living in Memphis in a one-bedroom, and he wants the bishop to sit down with Aaron because he's saying that Aaron won't listen to reason. God did not make him this way, but he believes he was born this way. Lady Gaga all day. And he's like, maybe you can talk to him and talk some sense into him because he trusts you. So, but he's like, he's all I got left because that the Bishop Lionel's wife had passed away. But yeah, I'm gonna get to a little bit of that. But yeah, so that's what happened there. So now the cat's out the bag about Aaron and Kevin. Next we get a scene with Jacob and Carissa. Carissa is pretty much polishing her husband in the early morning. After she comes from underneath the covers, they talk because they're supposed to be Jacob's supposed to be having a staff meeting with the leaders at Triumph because now that he's the new pastor, he now has to get to know the staff and kind of like get a directive of how they're going to run the church from henceforth now that Bishop Shanks is no longer there. And pretty much, he said that I need to be there, to take questions or whatever may have you. So we see that Carissa decides to not go into work, and she says that, but I can be reached by phone. Or she says, I'm gonna be late to work today, but I can be reached by phone. So he's like, well, what's going on? And she's like, I'm going with you. So I'm like, already, Carissa is waiting. Carissa wants her red carpet moment. And trust me, in this whole episode, Carissa was showing her royal behind. Like, you just already get this, like she is, the entitled one now. And her whole attitude has changed. And I'm definitely going to tap on that as well. Next, we get a scene with Charity. Charity is playing with baby Nathan, and she's working on some music, and she's talking to baby Nathan, and then she gets a video chat from Jabari, and Jabari pretty much lets her know that I got some great news, and he's like, I got Tamala Man. And she's like, oh, that's great. What she wants me to write a song for her. He's like, no, better. And the news is that Tamala Man wants Charity to sing backup with her on her national tour, which is a very big deal because it would not only get her exposure, but it could really actually help build her rapport within the industry. So it's actually a really great move. So she's up there and she is like ecstatic about it. She tells, Lady Mae, the bishop, and also Gigi about it. And she's like, okay, but they're like, it's the tour is for, I think, for about 2 months. And they're like, okay, what are you going to do about, baby Nathan? She's like, well, I can get Marcel to look after the baby while I'm gone, so therefore, because she's saying that, at least keep the baby close, well, pretty much, yeah, she Lady Mae prefers her to leave the baby with Marcel, because at least the baby will be close to them while she goes off and, does her work. But she's like, I'll work it out the best way I can. So then we get a scene with Aaron and the bishop. Aaron has finally returned back to Calvary, and he's like, look, I'm sorry about everything that's going on between me and Kevin. I didn't want to cause any trouble, but Kevin is having such a hard time. And Jacob, and then like Bishop Greenleaf was like, hard time? I mean, do you think that, Charity isn't having a hard time, or worse than that? That what's so much of a hard time is he having that he will leave his only son? What's going on with that? But then Aaron stopped and was like, look, before we go in, I can't change who I am, and she's like, you understand that, don't you? And the bishop's like, look, only God knows the heart. And pretty much he asked him like, well, if Kevin told you about him, would you have been there for him instead of the fact that, because pretty much Kevin was on his own after it all came out. But Aaron wants to know that, okay, would you have been there for him if he would have told you? But then he said that, look, at the end of the day, God is going to sort this whole thing out. So So it's like, so in a way he was kind of letting the bishop know that, look, I know how Kevin feels. Kevin feels like he doesn't have anybody. And, you know, my father is somebody that's important to me, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be who I am. So they pretty much decide to have the meeting, and I'm definitely going to get to that. So, yeah. Okay. Alright, so then we have Carissa and Jacob. They're meeting with Brittany, who I think is the treasurer of the church. You know, they're going through everything about the music department, you know, all of the church business, and they come to find out that Tasha's office is right next door to Jacob's new office. So immediately, Carissa is already feeling some kind of way. Because you know Tasha's pretty, and Tasha right now, she has abandoned. Pretty much, you know, she's now alone now that Bishop Skanks ran off. So you already tell Carissa feels some kind of way that her office is going to be right next door to Jacob's, and then once they get to Jacob's office, you know, Carissa's like, could you actually call Tasha and actually let her know that I would like to meet with her? And she's like, oh sure. And then Jacob's like, she's the church treasurer. That's not her job to be making calls for you. And she's like, well, the thing is, I tried to call and she's not answering. So I just figured maybe she can get to her. And we already see in this episode that Tasha has good rapport with the women of this church. So now we go back to the meeting between Lionel, Aaron, and Bishop Greenleaf. And it just goes completely left because Lionel does not want to accept Aaron's lifestyle. He does not want to accept who Aaron is. He's saying that why don't you just change, and then he starts bringing up Romans 1. And he's like, I know about Romans 1, but I also know this. Judge not yet, judge not, I'm having a brain fart right now, y'all. I completely apologize. It happens sometimes, but judge not lest ye be judged. There we go. Woo. Oh, thank you, Lord. All right. Well, yeah. Judge not lest ye be judged, and God is love. And he's like, and Bishop Greenleaf is like, that's true. And he's like, look, and he's like, whose side are you on, Bishop? This is Lionel, because he wants the bishop to be on his side. So Lionel's like, whose side are you on? He's like, I'm not on anybody's side. He's like, well, you need to get on a side because, and then Jacob's like, look, God accepts me for who I am. And then he was like, well, who you are is unacceptable. I was like, oh, Lionel, you are a mess. You are a pure, unadulterated mess because at the end of the day, your cloth is not clean, but yet you're going to judge your child because your child happens to be gay, and your child can't change who he is. So we see that's the first meeting they have. The second meeting, I'm just going to tie both of them together. The second meeting, Bishop Lionel is still going in that you need to change and you need to, get it right with God. And he's like, you know what? I love you, Dad, and I know you're all I have, but I can't do this with you anymore. So I'm done. I'm over it. He's like, and then he was like, you know what? Maybe that's the reason why your mother left. And he's like, oh. So I'm like, you reaching, Bishop Lionel. You are really reaching. You disdain the fact that your son is gay so bad that you are that homophobic that you will literally use your dead wife against your own son. And I was just like, there is no lower you can go than to do something like that. So it really made me not like him at all, because he is a mess. And we find out a lot about him too. Because at that moment, Aaron was like, I'm over the BS. I'm over your judgment. I'm over your narcissism. I'm over all of your crap. And he begins to let him know, for your information, Mom knew about me. And she's like, oh, no, she did. She's like, oh, yes, she did. She knew about me because I told her when I was 13. And she told me to not tell you because you couldn't handle it. And obviously she was right. And she also told me about all of your liaisons too. She knew everything. So just because you fooled around with women doesn't make it a sin. And walked up out of there. And I was like, okay, yes, Aaron definitely did his thing. And I was so here for it. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. And at the end of the day, God loves all of us. Just because you choose to sleep with the same sex does not mean God loves you any less. And it doesn't mean that God does not have your back in times of trouble. So let the church say amen. Hallelujah. Keep it moving. So that went down. Then we ended up getting a scene with Aaron and Charity. Now, Lady May and Bishop pretty much had a conversation. They said that, look, we need to let Charity know about this whole Aaron and Kevin business before she finds it out some other way. So we need to let Charity know what's going on. So by the time Aaron went to go see Charity, Charity was giving no cares and no desires. She's like, how can I help you? And he's like, I'm sorry? She's like, how can I help you? I mean, isn't that how you would start off when you used to work here? Isn't that what you did when you were helping me with my divorce? Wasn't that what you were doing when you were living in our house? Yeah. So how can I help you? And he's like, look, I'm sorry about all of this, and, but the thing is, Kevin is really going through a hard time, and she's like, I don't care how he feels. I care about my son, and about that I want to create a good life for my son. That's my main concern. My concern is not Kevin's feelings. But then that's the issue, Charity, because you only care about your feelings, and everyone else's feelings has to go to the backside. Because let's be real, that man wanted to work it out with you because he wanted to be there. He wanted to be a family. He wanted you guys to be a unit. Even though he had these homosexual desires, he has been conflicted, and it's been tearing him apart. And once it got out, he literally was left alone and had nobody. The only people that actually talked to him and actually, didn't judge him or didn't change up on him was Grace and Kevin. Those were the only two. Everyone else wasn't even involved with Kevin after that secret came out about Kevin being gay. So you didn't care at all of how he felt when you should have. Because if you cared, maybe he would have been able to come to you and could have been able to open up more to you. But he couldn't do that because you were too busy going off to Nashville, getting your nose sniffing, and getting your neck blown over by Jabari, because you are just all Jabari right now. And she was kind of going through that then. You were so focused on your music career and Jabari, you didn't even realize that your husband, who's supposed to be your best friend, needed you. And that's pretty much all I got to say about that. So yeah, Charity is getting read by me tonight, because she was so out of order. Because when, Aaron's like, look, I understand this, but you don't understand. He's broken. He feels, she's like, I don't care how he feels. Now, if you don't mind, I have some work to do. And I'm like, and then like you just really saw Aaron, you know, leave, but Aaron really felt sorry and felt like that it's messed up how this all went down. But Aaron didn't intentionally. Well, let's be real. Aaron had his eye out for Kevin, and Kevin fine, so I understand. But anyway, but it was just that at that moment, you know, it's like at that moment. You know, Aaron was just feeling like, man, you know, I'm actually here trying to tell you why Kevin left and why Kevin has not been responding, and you're just blowing off at me. And it's crazy because that's how Charity is. Charity is all about her feelings, but then other people's feelings are kind of like seconds to hers. Because we even saw this with the situation involving Carlton. You know, when Carlton got fired, you were nowhere to be found. The only person that went out to reach out to Carlton and his husband was Grace. So, we see that this is a pattern with Charity. Charity is so involved in her own feelings, she doesn't consider the feelings of others. And if you disagree, if you agree or disagree with what I said, you can put that down in the comments. I'd definitely like to talk to you about that. So, we see that Bishop and Lady May have a moment, you know, while she's in front of the mirror, and he brings up, you know, to her about what was talked about in the meeting, and pretty much he pretty much tells her that Aaron pretty much, you know, made this comment about Bishop Lionel, you know, having multiple relationships out of the marriage. She's like, I think his deceased wife's name was Patricia. She's like, did Patricia ever talk to you about this? And she's like, oh no, she told me everything, and she never told me nothing about that. But we can see Lady May. Lady May is simple as she is real simple because she's the one who cheated on her husband with this man, and now she feels some kind of way because she now realizes she wasn't the only one. And it's kind of funny how the person who's doing the cheating feels some kind of way when they're the ones being cheated on. You see how it's different when it happens to you? So we see that going on, and then we get this explosive scene, you know, at the dinner table. You know, Lionel is there, and, you know, Charity's talking about, you know, that she's talked to Tamla Man's assistant, and that she's a nanny that can travel on the road, so, you know, she can actually take little Nathan with her, you know, while she does this tour with Tamla Man. And Lady May is not having it. She flips out. She's like, oh, you up here trying to follow your nose behind Jabari and gonna pretty much be raising your child on a pimped out bus. I'm like, Lady May was not having it. And she's like, look, I have it under control. She's like, what's wrong with Marcel? What happened? What happened with Marcel? What changed? And she's like, look, it's not that. It's that I don't want, you know, Nathan to be a burden on anybody. I want to take him myself, and do the. And Tamala's assistant says she has a good person, so she says she actually has somebody that will actually help assist with Nathan on the road. So why not? But Lady May is adamant that she doesn't want her to take little Nathan on the road with her. So, but she's like, Charity's like, look, I can handle it. So that ends up happening. Then, they pretty much, but then she has said that, and then like Lady May's like, well, what about your responsibilities here? What about your ministry? Because she's the minister of music. And she's like, well, hey, we can get somebody. I mean, hey, Kevin's always available. And she's like, oh God, I see Kevin definitely, clouded your senses because you brought up Carlton. And I'm like, see, Lady May is very homophobic as well, and so is Lionel. So they both were going back and forth, he's talking about Aaron and that, what he is like an abomination and all of that, and, she's like, and then like Lady May begins to kind of flip it on him, so they're having a conversation above everybody's heads. But Bishop is definitely kind of looking at this a different way, like, there's something ain't right with this situation. So she's like, oh yeah, you may be talking about homosexuality, but what about the other laws? And what about the other commandments about lying, cheating, committing adultery? And she starts to kind of go in, and it's like, and Lionel knows what she's talking about. So she's like, oh, what about, what we hear about, just because, yeah, I may not condone this homosexual business, but at the end of the day, there are other laws besides that. So at least Lady May is like, okay, yeah, I don't like homosexuality, but at the end of the day, that ain't the only thing in the Bible that God rejected. So she kind of like checked him, and then like it really kind of gets tense between them, and everybody at the table is kind of like, whoa, what just went down? So I'm going to get to the showdown between the two of them in a second, but before that, we see that Jacob meets with the staff at Triumph, and he says he wants to bring people in from the homeless and people that he's been working with the First Church of Memphis. He wants to kind of add what he's doing to that. So he says that, look, what you guys are doing is great, so don't change it, but I'd like to add some people to it, and they all okayed it. But Brittany, the church treasurer, Brittany is a mess, and she is very, she came off like she nice, but she's messy, because she pretty much told him that, look, as of right now, the church budget is limited, so you're gonna have to wait on your little thing. And he's like, okay, I'll take it in consideration, that is. But she's like, yeah, I know you will. She's like, yeah, I know you will. And then walked off, and I'm like, oh really? Boo-boo. You ain't the pastor, honey. But in her mind, she just feels she's entitled. And we find out that more when Tasha comes to dinner, because we see finally Tasha is in her office, and she's meeting with some of the ladies of the church. And we can already see, Carissa feels some kind of way, because Tasha is a beloved first lady, and the people of the church love her. And Carissa coming in there trying to showboat like she's Liz Taylor at the Academy Awards, honey. She's giving, because she had that bad suit on, and she literally came to church to stunt, and that's what she was there for. She just wants it to be known, I am the new First Lady of Triumph, and look at me, honey. Watch me sparkle, baby, sparkle. And that's what she was giving the entire time. So the ladies leave, and she talks to Tasha, and she's like, I know you've been going through a hard time. I actually want to invite you to dinner. We're going to have dinner at 7 o'clock, so why don't you just come over, and, we can have, dinner with each other. And then all of a sudden the lady came in, and she's like, First Lady. They both turned around, yes? And the lady was like, I meant First Lady Skanks. So you can already see the ladies of the church do not like her. And it's like, but like I said last week, be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. You now got your position, but you may be sacrificing a lot, because we see at that dinner, Tasha's there, and she talks about Brittany, the church treasurer. It's like, oh, she is a mess. Oh, she is always acting like that. What she says is point, period. She don't want to hear no discussion, no debate, no nothing. She is just that hard-headed. But she's good at what she does. But she's like, look, if y'all want, I can talk to her and get her together. And Clarissa's like, oh, no, leave it to me. I have this under control. I'm like, see, Clarissa, you need to sit down, because you ain't going to do nothing but dig a deeper hole for yourself than you already have. So we see at the table, she kind of gets a little bit emotional, because she said she hasn't heard from Skanks, and, she said he only took one pair of shoes. He didn't even pack any clothes. All his stuff is still at the condo. She says, I just been sitting at that condo all by myself, and his stuff is still there. And we see that Jacob, he kind of looks at her, and he kind of like comforts her, and we see Carissa just, her nose turns up, and and I'm like, look at, I laughed my butt off at that part. I was like, oh girl, you are really in your feelings. But as I said, be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. You did all this messiness to get that, to get triumph. You think, you know, you're not going to have to pay a price for that? You might pay a price, because it may be that Tasha and Jacob might end up getting close. And you opened the door for it. Okay. So we see that one down. Then, alright. Oh, yeah. Then we actually see that, you know, later on, Carissa still tries to play this mess that, oh, I want to, you know, and she's pretty much, you know, like, saying that, you know, I really want to move this office, you know, I really want to move Tasha back to where your office used to be, and I move next door to you. And she's like, look, right now we're doing too much, so just let's take our time. Let's do one step at a time. And then the next thing you know, just like she was polishing him in the morning, he returned the favor at night and began to polish her, and under the covers he went. And that's what happened there. Next, I want to talk about Zora, Sophia, what's his name? Roberto, and Isaiah, a.k.a. Little Iterna. They're at the cotillion, and they're at the rehearsal. And first of all, they're all talking and everything, and we see the guy Sam, who's Roberto's friend that Zora had went on the date with, and he actually waved at Zora, and it's like, he's really a really nice guy. He really is. And here it is, she's messing around with Little Ike Turner. He done already bruised your forehead, and next thing you know, this fool comes in late, wearing some glasses. I'm like, what was you doing? You know, was you like hitting a few doobies or getting some Rolling Stones? I'm like, where was you at? Was you on tour, bruh? I mean, because Little Ike Turner came in like he was on Rocket 88, and he ain't got off since. Because he just came in like, you know, I'm here and all of this, and, you know, and she's like, there is no reason for you to be wearing sunshades and we're indoors. So he pretty much takes the sunshades, you happy now? I'm like, see, he is a mess. So then they have a part where they're doing like the couples dancing, and he decides while doing the couples dancing, he's going to pull a stunt. So he breaks her off, does a pirouette, and then dips her and everything, and the lady kind of like goes in and like chastises him because he was out of line. And, you know, if anything, it just made it. Sophia's just looking at this like, this guy is such a pain in the neck. So then later on, they start talking, and they kind of like clowning, like Roberto and Sophia are like clowning Isaiah to her. Like, she's like, wow, you know, he actually, you know, made a good impression here already. And she's like, Sophia, cut it out. And I'm like, and she's like, well, and she's like, you don't mind that he's doing that? Because he's over there with some other girls taking selfies and stuff. So he is like already in his own zone, all about him. And they were kind of clocking it, like, you know, well, I don't know why y'all laughing. I mean, he can dance though. And they're like, Roberto's like, yeah, like we ain't seen nobody dance like Michael Jackson before. So then he comes over there, and like Zora's like, and then like, you know, Sophia, because him and Sophia do not like each other, and Sophia is definitely that person that tells him off. And I'm like, yeah, that's definitely Grace's daughter, because Sophia was not here for Little Ike Turner's BS. So he come over and she's like, you know, that was an impressive move you pulled. And he's like, you talking to me? She's like, no, I'm talking to the cookie. He's like, see, you see what I'm talking about, Zora? I can't even be in the room 5 minutes without her shading me. And she's like, let me break it down for you, Isaiah. The man is the frame, the woman is the picture. What part of that do you not understand? And he's like, yo, I'm sick of her always, and like, you know, and Roberta trying to calm her down. She's like, See, why is it that every time you're around, you have to always make it about you? And he's like, you know what? I don't care. I ain't, and like, Zora's like, come on. She's like, what, you taking her side? That's how you feel? Fine, I'm out. And then they go outside and they explore more. He's like, I'm tired of her always coming for me, and you always taking her side, and blah, 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 blah. And like, they just go back and forth. And then she's trying to stop him from leaving. And then he gets to the point where he literally, like, roughs her up and, like, literally throws her into one of the columns outside. And then she starts crying. And then she's like, and then she starts crying. It's like, you know what? Get off of me. Leave me alone. Just stay away from me. And then he starts pulling that abusive tactic. Baby, I don't know why I do this. You are so important to me. You mean more to me than anything. And I will never hurt you again. I promise. I'm sorry. Like, and he sucked her right back in. And that's pretty much a trait of the abuser. They know how to reel you in. And they know how to kind of feed you those lies where they will keep you there, but yet still physically assault you at any given moment. So we saw that go down with them. Now, this was the big blow-up, because what ends up happening was that finally we get the scene between Lady Mae and Lionel. And Lionel's like, huh. So I see, you know, you probably heard word about what my son said, you know, throwing those lies around. Maybe that explains why you were being so shady during dinner time. And she was like, you disgust me. You mean to tell me that I was about to end my marriage and end my livelihood and was going to give up all of this for you, and there were others? And he said that, no, you were the only one that meant the most to me. You were the only one that I cared about. You know, nobody else mattered but you. And she's like, oh, you are so full of it. Oh my God, you are disgusting. I can't believe it, that there were others. And she says, how many? He's like, a few. So they go back and forth, and she lets him go in like, oh yeah, she just lets him have it like, you are foul, you're disgusting. Like, I want to know how many other women that you told the same lies you told to me. You don't love me. My husband loved me, and I just needed somebody there, and you don't even exist. You just hear and body, but you don't have nothing else other than that. And she was just going back and forth, and he's like, yeah, and your brother was a pedophile. And your husband ain't no saint. And that sissy son-in-law of yours done corrupted my son. And I'm like, what? Last time I checked, it was Aaron that got aggressive with Kevin. Because Aaron took the shot and made the first move. So yeah, your son more aggressive than you think he is. And then the next thing you know, she slapped the taste out of his mouth. And was like, you are nothing. You never were nothing. You will never be nothing. You know, you are just a big glob of nothing. And then walked out. So then, and also we see that Grace and Darius get close to each other. And, you know, they pretty much open up about each other. First they was talking about kids. Darius don't want kids. But then he says that, look, I don't care whether we have kids or not. I just want you. You're it for me. And next thing you know, the two of them get it in on the couch. And I was like, okay, Grace, get your life, baby. I ain't mad at you. I mean, you ain't had nothing until you ain't had nothing since you decided to take a ride on Noah's Ark in season 1. So I'm glad you got your life and you got yourself together. Praise God. But then the episode ended when you know, Lionel and Bishop are talking, and, you know, they're exchanging words with each other. And he pretty much says that, you know, I'm going to pray that you guys work it out, because, Aaron, that your son is all you have. You know, one day you're going to need him, and one day he's going to need you. You guys need to be there for each other. So he says that, yeah, I understand. But he says, and then Lionel says, tell Lady Mae I'm sorry. He's like, sorry for what? like, sorry for not saying goodbye. And it immediately started to click in Bishop's mind. Something went down. And that's where it ended. I'm sorry if this review was long, but yeah, there was a lot that happened in this episode, and it was awesome. But yes, if I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I will be back with the next episode of Greenleaf. So until then, everybody, take care.